welcome to the Vet View. Today we're speaking with Ashley Gonzales, who is a senior consultant at Client Solution Architects, which is a management, logistics, and consulting firm. So thank you for coming on and being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. So you just retired out of the Navy after 21 years of service. That is a long time. So can you tell me a little bit about when you joined the military and what made you want to be in the Navy?
Sure. I'm originally from the Bronx, New York, and one of the reasons I joined the military, wanted to serve my country. It was during the Gulf invasion, and so I wanted to go ahead and serve my country. It was also a tough time because my dad had just passed away, and I didn't want my mom to have to support me through college or anything like that. And so I went ahead, got up and left. I was 18 years old, and what better time than right after high school. And so I did. I joined, went to boot camp in Chicago. From there, I went to A school in Meridian, Mississippi, and then I landed my first job with VFA 303 out of Livermore, California, and it was great. It's been great ever since.
Okay, now for the civilians who may not know the acronyms, what is VFA?
Okay, it's a Fixed Wing Fighter Attack Squadron. They're the FA-18 aircraft that you may see out on air shows and stuff like that, and so it's one of the best aircraft, I think, in the Navy inventory.
Okay, all right. So there's such a broad spectrum of what you can do while you're in the Navy. You can be a corpsman and be on the medical side. You can be working with aircraft. What exactly was it that you were doing while you were enlisted?
Well, it's funny, in the military you have so many different jobs, and what I came in for was as an aviation storekeeper. And what that was is supply support, basically ordering parts, handling the budgets for these squadrons or the commands that I'm attached to, making sure that people are taken care of as far as for clothing, any kind of personal protective equipment, buying that for them, hazardous material, things of that nature. Inventory management is big in the aviation storekeeper world, actually in the storekeeper world. So it's just making sure that you are a good steward of the taxpayers' dollars.
So now you joined back during Desert Storm in the Gulf War, you said, and so how many, if any, deployments did you go on, and what was that like for you?
I'll tell you, that's kind of an interesting story, or an interesting question. I joined in this program called, at the time, TAR, Training Administrating Reservists. Eventually it turned into full-time support, FTS. And one of the fringe benefits, or a couple of the fringe benefits, was not many overseas duties and not many shipboard duties. And especially on the aviation side, there weren't any ships for us in the reserves to go to. At the time, I believe it was the Kennedy was one, and I think the Incheon was the other. And so I didn't get to see any deployments until later on in my career. And that was when, due to eventual mergers with my rating, I was on a frigate, and with the departmental LCPO, I was the departmental leading chief petty officer, and it was great. I did a tour down in Central America. We did drug ops, drug interdiction, looking for boats coming out of Central South America, just stopping them to go into Mexico, and then eventually bringing drugs into the United States.
Oh, that's interesting. Now that was on ship?
That was on ship. That was later on in my career, so I actually didn't do a 6-month deployment until my 18th year in the Navy.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, so now you tell me. Now we're in San Diego, and so we have the Midway here, where you can go on and do a tour, and I've seen like the way the beds are set up. They're like it's like 3 on top of each other.
Sure.
The space is like this tiny. As well, you were saying it was like in your 18th year in the Navy, so by then you were like a senior
enlisted, yeah.
Senior enlisted. So were your living quarters the same, or did you have some stretch space?
Well, I tell you, I will go down to the general berthing every once in a while, make sure things were clean, and making sure I'm checking on my guys and stuff. And I noticed how they slept, and it was definitely cramped. But really, the senior enlisted wasn't that much different. Just maybe a little bit wider, but not much wider. I would go often to the ward room because, as a departmental leading chief petty officer, I would have constant contact with my department head, and so I will go to their quarters and because it was their office as well, and I would see what they were living in, and it was not nicer to say the least. But it was fine. I mean, I stood in a berthing area with 13 other chiefs, 14 other chiefs, but they were sectioned off in a way where me being one of the more senior chiefs, I was able to stay in an area where it was myself, the senior enlisted leader, and another senior chief. And so it was cool. It was only 3 of us in that area. And so that was all right.
A little bit of leg room.
Yeah.
So each person that you talk to that's served in the military, their experience has been different. And I know, personally for me, there were some things that I loved about the Marine Corps, and there were some things that I did not love as much about the Marines. So what for you personally, what was the best part of serving for you, and what was the part that was maybe a little less enjoyable?
Well, I tell you, the fun times I had was when I was in the squadron, especially my first squadron. And in the military, especially in the Navy, I can't really talk on all the other services, but I know in the Navy, they make you diversify yourself. I mean, they really do, from either sweeping floors, ordering parts, or what I loved to do was being a plane captain on the F-18. And that was so much fun, launching aircraft. And it was just a blast being able to coordinate you and the pilot, making sure everything is functional on the aircraft before they fly, knowing that you had something to do with that aircraft taking off. That was always an exhilarating feeling for me. And then I guess eventually, as I got out of that and got into my job rating, I really liked expediting parts, making sure that these parts that I'm ordering or that somebody else is ordering, that I'm finding where they're at, locating them, talking to different people that I'll never see around the world, making sure that that item comes to me so that I can get it to the squadron, and making sure that airplane flies. And so that always gave me a sense of accomplishment, a sense of I'm part of the team, knowing that I got that part for that squadron, for that airplane to fly its mission and drop warheads on foreheads.
Right. That's a new one. I don't think I've heard that one. Okay, so now let's move into your transition. Like you said, you did 21 years in, and I think the majority of people that we've had on the show, we had my mentor, Michelle Paul, who actually retired out of the Marines, but for the most part, we've had younger service members who got out maybe after 1 or 2 enlistments. And so I would think that it would be almost easier for you to transition because, you have all that experience. I know you got your degree while you were still enlisted. And so did you find that because you were senior enlisted when you got out, you had more opportunities and it was an easier transition, or is it just across the board when you cross over, it's a difficult thing?
Well, I think when you look at the different dynamics of being senior enlisted and being a young sailor or Marine or soldier or airman coming out of the military, it really is different in that you have your different challenges. For the most part, the younger sailor has no family to worry about. It's really just themselves, and they could go ahead and possibly find something that will suit their needs. And a lot of them, what I'm finding out is they decided to go to school or because they didn't take the opportunity while they were in. And so they'll do that route. And I tell them when I go to different speaking engagements and I talk to these young sailors that make sure that you still get what you want, that you're going for your passion, because understand that these schools are a business and they're in there to get your money. So just make sure you're talking to people and you're getting guidance and you're understanding what the processes are so that you can get the most bang for your buck. And sometimes when it comes to young adults, they may not necessarily want to listen or heed the warnings or advice, and so they have to deal with what they deal with. I think when it comes to a more mature, more older sailor that's getting out after a retirement, their dynamics is their families. Majority of them have families to worry about, so it's not just them looking for work, but looking for careers, looking for something that's going to be able to put food on the table and clothes on their kids' backs. And that could be very daunting and very challenging for that person, whether it's male or female, and because they have to support that family, especially if it's one income. And that was my situation, we were one income family. And there was a point during my transition, I was like, honey, you know what? I gotta hustle to get this, this gig going, whatever that gig is, because we didn't know. I mean, I was confident that I could get a job, but at the same time, I knew nothing. You know what I mean? I didn't know really what to expect. Yeah, I was prepared in that I could somewhat talk the talk and walk the walk that these civilians are doing, but really I don't know. And so I had to really reinvent myself, and that's why I went to school and while I was in, and just to give me that competitive advantage. Going through ReBoot really helped me a lot and helped me to prepare myself more for the outside and give me that extra boost of competitive advantage. And so I tell you, just going out there, working the floors, and what I mean by that is like going to these job fairs and talking to different employers, potential employers, and letting them know who I am and showing them my personality, giving them my resume was great, and it helped me to see, yeah, I could do this. But you know, there is that time that, hey man, I need to get a job.
Right.
You know what I mean? I need a job. And I'm just very grateful that Client Solution Architects came through.
And so, Client Solution Architects, you're working with them as a senior consultant. So
correct.
That sounds like you're pretty high up on the chain.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's one of those where I guess they're great at seeing talent and putting them in situations where that's gonna best benefit the company, best help the client. And I think because of my experiences and the people that interviewed me, and you know, they felt that, yeah, I was at that level. So very grateful for that.
So now, can you explain exactly what it is that you do with CSA, what your job is, and what your final outcome as you're working with them it should be?
Okay. Well, I consult to Space and Naval Warfare Center here in San Diego. And they're basically, I call them the R&D arm of the Navy and Marine Corps. So working for Client Solution Architects, as a senior consultant, I consult in the logistics arena to the different program management warfares. And what they provide is equipment and services to the fleet. And what I do is try to help them with best practices in the logistics arena. Okay. And because of my background is in logistics.
Right, and so you find that everything that you learned in the Navy, everything that you were supervising, carries directly over into what you're doing right now.
It does. A lot of it does. Not everything does, but a lot of it does, especially utilizing the various websites that the Navy use to track their parts, to track different matrices, and so we utilize that stuff with our company. And what we do is we're almost like an extension of the government worker in SPAWAR that works at SPAWAR, and we do bring a lot of knowledge and a lot of expertise to that field, where some of these civilian contractors or some of these civilians may not have had that experience in the military. Right. And so we'll bring that to them, and they appreciate that.
So I know for a lot of service members that get out, they're not necessarily dependent on how you look at it. I think it's lucky because I wanted to stay in my occupational specialty once I got out. But a lot of people get out and they're not in the same field that they were when they were in the military. You're in a similar field, maybe?
I am.
Right. So how do you find that your military experience has helped with all the core values that you learned and things like that? How do you find that helps you on your day-to-day in your job now?
Well, I'll tell you, I got some fun facts about who I work for, because what's great about where I work is the people. And what I mean by that is that we have about 150, 160 employees, of which 39% of them are veterans. And it's actually a veteran-owned company as well, which is really neat. The one that founded, the two founders, Brian LeBeau and Lee Arroyo. Lee Arroyo was prior Navy, and so got to talk to him a few months back, and he got to tell me a little bit about his background. He was actually an aviation storekeeper, which is kind of cool because that's how I came in as well. But yeah, the company is incredible. I mean, as far as just seeking out talent, not only in the ex-military field, but also we have a lot of college students, interns. So we're really diversified as far as the makeup of the company. And yeah, the people are great. It's great being able to talk shop, you know,
right.
so to speak, with some of these veterans when I go back to work or when I go to work. And it's always neat to pick their brains as to, you know, situations they were in when they were in, and how they dealt with it, and how different it is now. Because the Navy, at least I can speak on the Navy, it's evolved so much from the time they've been in to the time now. And I'm sure in the future I'm going to be talking to some of these sailors that are getting out, and they're going to say, yeah, it's a lot different. And so, yeah, it's been a great ride, and I really love the fact that I'm going back and giving back to the military in the field that I'm in.
Right.
You know, so it's one of those, I coined the phrase, well, I don't think I've coined it, I've heard it many times before, but I like to say I coined it. It's paying it forward.
Right.
You know, so I've been doing that with CSA as well as with ReBoot, and it's been fun. It's been fun.
All right. And so now I know that is something that is so passionate for you, giving back and making sure that you speak to those who are coming out and helping them to move forward. Mm-hmm. So in that, what advice would you have for veterans who are, or service members who are nearing their transition, maybe for someone who thinks they have it all together, you don't need to tell them anything, and for someone who's approaching it completely paralyzed, they don't know what to do, what advice would you have for them?
That's a good question. Well, one of the things I tell some of these graduates at ReBoot is active communication. You got to be actively communicating with your significant others, but as well as with potential employers. Making sure they know where you're coming from and that you know what you're trying to present. Whether it's school or whether it's at a job fair, making sure that you're actively communicating with these people, making sure that they know, okay, if I'm going to be away for a week on vacation and you have a potential interview, just let them know. Let them know that you're going to be gone. Or a wife, husband, I'm going to be gone this whole week. I'm going to be going to Family Service Center, working on my resume. I'm going to be going to different job fairs. I'm going to be going on these interviews, making sure you have active communication. Another thing is comfort zones. You know, we hear a lot about comfort zones and expanding your comfort zone. And one of the things I've learned through the military is because of the opportunities that it's given me and afforded me, whether it's with school or the jobs that I've had, it's always allowed me to expand my comfort zone so that I know I always have a reach back, that if for whatever reason I'm in a situation that I don't like, I could always go back to something else that I like, that I know I'm good at,
right,
and work it from there. So expanding your comfort zones. And then another thing is just thinking positive through your whole situation, because it is tough, and especially if you have a family, it's tough. And I think when you encompass the whole active communication and making sure that you're talking with your family and positively about your transition, then it's going to help in a lot of ways with your transition, because there are a lot of fears of the unknown,
right,
and you're not going to be able to control every situation that you're in or not in. And having the faith that in your abilities to be able to do the job that you need to do, one, not only to get the job, but to also help that company out, but also have faith in those things that you don't have control in, whether it's a networking situation that you're in and having them maybe look for a job for you, or whatever the case may be, family service centers, things of that nature. It's just one of those things that you just gotta do. Right. You gotta think positive about the whole entire situation.
Absolutely. You can make or break your situation. Very
Absolutely.
True. What advice would you have for civilians on interacting with the veteran community, on understanding us a little better?
Well, I think one of the things that the civilian community can do in understanding veterans is getting involved with some of these veteran civilian networking opportunities. You look at NAVNet, you look at SDMAC, for two that I know of, and I'm sure there are others out there. Getting involved And not only doing it because you get a tax break, but doing it because you genuinely care for your veterans. Remember, these are the people that have fought for the freedoms that you have to be able to own your company. So going back and searching out, maybe even establishing like a veteran liaison in your company, making a job there for that veteran to be able to look for some of these other organizations that can help your company thrive, and understanding what these veterans are bringing to the plate will help these companies understand, okay, yeah, maybe I could use these veterans to help me get to where I need to go.
Right.
Granted, there is a place for the college student, and when it comes to the younger mindset, they at times can have a better understanding of what's going on, or a better understanding of creativity. But when you have a senior veteran like myself, we've been there, we've done that, and we own the t-shirt for it. So just remember that we can definitely help you guys out, guys and gals out, in your corporations, making you the best that you can be.
All right. Well, thank you, Ashley, for coming on.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure. And guys, if you want to link up with Ashley on LinkedIn, you can find him at ASHLEY, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gonzalez on LinkedIn. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next time on the Vet View.